Lifers Podcast. Get with it or get forgotten.
Kevin, and thanks for having me. Glad that we could have some time to discuss matters I think that are most essential probably in all of your cases. And congrats for where all of you are at this point too. A lot of big things just to get to this situation and stage of the journey, we'll say.
Thank you. Yes, first of all, I want to say thank you for coming on, and I hope all is well with your family, and the clinic is doing well and everything like that during these trying times for sure. So thank you for taking the time, seriously.
So I saw some questions at least, and can't wait to get to the bottoms of and figuring out what things we can make easier. But I know there's a lot to it. Right?
Yeah, for sure. But for the people who are listening, I know I'm curious, and I know a little bit about it. Some background between you and I. I'm lucky enough to be able to call you, a professional mentor, someone who I learned a little bit under and learned a lot under. So thank you for that already. I know I've said that so many times to you, and I can't say it enough. But what is your journey in the becoming a physical therapist? What's that? What does that entail?
Right, and you're a good student too, there, Kevin. So that's the reason why I'm able to teach more. Those that give and do more, I usually will also. And I think that's a really good question when you say what the journey was. For myself, I would probably put it where I wasn't that 20-year-old, 24-year-old saying, hey, I know right where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do. And I really find that to be impressive for those that are at that young age and find that level of dedication and pursuit even then. I went in a different track, more so from where I joined the military after some ups and downs of, how would you say, sales jobs, collections, things in that case. But went to the military. That was probably the bigger physical element, other than doing about 17 years in gymnastics. So just always inclined to know that exercise is a big part of myself and just my own demeanor. And so within my time in the military, got to have a lot of fun, jumping out of planes, learning, pushing the body, and just realizing how much of what I could do. Sure enough, after I got out, which was about that 23, 24 year of age, I picked up bad habits, smoking, drinking, which is I would say, not the elements of what I was raised or even had applied in the younger career. So that transcended basically to where I started to find a mentor myself, and he was a personal trainer, and where he showed me a lot of the ropes. And it quickly just transitioned to where I became a personal trainer, and that was maybe back in near 2002, 2003. And that escalated for about 10 years of me having my own studio. And within that time, it presented again where it was quality versus quantity. And that basically means that I was having to train more clients within the hour versus my typical one-on-one just to meet overhead. And that, I think, created a little bit more of my own ethical dilemma or conflict, which is then with what brought me back to school and said, hey, well, let's go and find out how that I might be able to, succeed by going further and beyond. And that's where it led me to down south, Florida Atlantic University. And that was in about mid-2000s, and finished up with my exercise science degree, got my CSCS, and then had the opportunity to finally be in a physical therapy clinic, not just a clinic, but one that was very much directed towards athletes, competitive level, from those of, USA women's soccer team, major minor league baseball. So it really taught me a lot in conjunction with also treating the 80-year-olds. I was a rehab tech. I know similar to yourself, like when you were at Brooks. And I think that's what really confirmed my consideration. Okay, do I want to go and become a physical therapist? Is this my next step? And sure enough, it did lead to that position. God bless, was able to come back to my hometown UCF and complete school there. Along the way, probably I would say stay within the community. haven't been in this past year, I think due to the COVID, but served as the men's gymnastics, Seminole County for Special Olympics. So it was really good just to find that a lot of my passion helped into where I found avenues that allowed for me to continue and giving back. So in a long-winded answer, probably started as a trainer, from there transitioned to the DPT, and now just staying involved in ways that I can find to be useful in the community, as such with Special Olympics.
No, I love it. It's funny you actually mentioned it's not a conventional, way, but the more that I kind of run into a lot of individuals who are in this profession, you realize that there is so much diversity in people's stories of how they got into PT. And I think it's because there's so many settings that we're involved in. So, whereas you were an athlete, you are still an athlete. You were involved in training, individuals and how that led you to that. But there's people who, have maybe had a sick child or had injuries themselves, and it just leads them to where they want to go. Were you ever injured and did physical therapy yourself when you were growing up?
No, actually, only had one sprained right ankle. And unfortunately, it was actually when we went to gymnastics or class, usually we wouldn't get out on the floor until our coach showed up. And incidentally, I was goofing off, did a front flip, and
you were goofing off. Yeah, that
tweaked the ankle. So it made it even worse that it wasn't even any of my coach's responsibility or lack thereof. And I'd actually have to say, if anything, learning from gymnastics in the background, he set the pace for me, even from my own aspects of coaching, where we don't push without first meeting the expectations, whether that's the quality of movement or what you're capable, because if which not, then you can potentially and get into injuries. And so I'm going to say, to the same extent, I think it was my coach recognizing at what times and levels that I could advance, where there could be greater potential injury due to release movements off high bars and double, triple back somersault layouts. But to me, I think that was one bigger reason as to no major injury other than the one time goofing off.
Okay, so I have a feeling you're probably, and I know this, but you're probably big into preventative care and how that can influence a lot of individuals. And it's probably something that's, unfortunately, in my opinion, untapped in the physical therapy world, or at least we haven't optimized how we can be leaders in preventative care. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm curious, what is your definition of what physical therapists do? Because I mean, we have the APTA, our accredited association, their definition. What's yours?
I mean, I can compliment and just follow in line with what they state, but I think for me, it's more about how do we inspire, encourage, motivate, facilitate, educate. I guess they're rhyming in a little bit of a sense, but to me, I think those are the more critical aspects of what we can do, and that you'll find, and I'll get to it later, I know, with just like soft skills. What are those abilities? A lot of times I think that's the biggest standpoint, is how do we support these individuals that we're trying to assist? How can we be sort of a team player and give them the right guidance? But to me, yeah, as simple as motivate, encourage, educate, empower, like anything. And I think you'll get somewhere better than nowhere.